Okay, it's now the 11th of April, 2015. And I thought I'd just spend some time going over, we're getting, as you know, we got the garboard planks both on. And we're getting ready to do what I call the bottom broad. There was only one broad in Gardner's drawings, but because of the way these boards have wrap, as you can see here, this is an 11-inch wide batten. And the reason I made it 11 inches wide is because that's the width of the half-inch stock that I've got a bunch of, and I also have some 8-inch, all half-inch thick. And so this gives me an idea. You can see why an 11-inch wide board, 20 feet long, you couldn't do the garboard with it. I had to wind up scarfing another piece at an angle up just to keep it in line, because this piece right in here, this is almost 11 inches, it's like 10¼ inches from here to there on the bottom of that, so of the garboard there. So anyhow, I'm getting ready to do the next one, and in order to this is the scarf joint for garboard, and you want to offset those. So I've elected to make the next piece down, the center piece will be wider, and like it's going to come right to here. This will be the scarf joint. Here's the actual board that I've cut, and that's the bevel for the scarf joint there. And the thing I'm trying to do now is to make sure, okay, I decided that when I laid this out that that this scarf joint would have to be at 6 degrees in order for it to work okay, because we're not using an 11-inch board for the ends. We're using an 8-inch board. I'm trying to use what I've got, and we still need an angled scarf joint there, whether I use an 11 or an 8, but an 8 will do. And so basically, if you take this 8 and you put it here, say, okay, this is where, sitting at that 6-inch or 6-degree pitch, that's where it has to be. And then it still has to, I got the markers here where the bottom of that plank has to cross the stem. So I want to make sure that I've got it sitting before I glue it all up. Do I glue it here or here, And of course, this one here I do almost straight on at the top edge, and that will work fine. Coming down here on the stern, for whatever reason, it's different by about an inch. It has to come down like about an inch in order for it to work properly there. There are subtle differences on all of this stuff, and I know that there are reasons for it, and being an amateur, I'm not sure I fully understand it all yet, but I know the slightest difference in the way I've beveled these frames could account for that, and you just, it'll drive you crazy if you try to fully understand it as a novice, I'll tell you that. So anyhow, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to fit it up so that before I glue them up, that I make sure that I'm going to glue them in the right spot on these 11-inch wide boards. And as you can see, I've already got this ready to put on and kind of do a test run. This is the width of the bevel right here. I've marked it with tape, and on all of the ones I've already done the bevels on most of the planks already, and in order to protect the very thin edges of these things, I put some masking tape on them dark blue masking tape, so I'm aware that those are the sensitive edges. Of course, on the end pieces, you only need a bevel on on one end. The other thing I've done is I put a little piece of tape on the side of the board that I've elected to be the inside of the board. That way I make sure that the bevel's going to go right. Like this bevel on the center board is going to be facing out, and the one on the end pieces will be overlapping it, so that the green, this is the area where the bevel is supposed to be. So that's where that board has to fit. And make sure when you're cutting these things, and make sure that you give an allowance for the fact of that extra 6 inches. Otherwise, you wind up with short boards like I already did once. And it's all a learning experience. But fool me once, shame on you, twice shame on you. I've got it under control, at least for that part. Now, the other thing about this here is, when I do this, I make sure I clamp this batten down and keep it. It's not dead on, because it's not sitting in the actual way it's going to wind up being, because it's resting on the garter right now. It's above the garter, and it's when you cut it, it's going to be matching with the garter's bevel from end to end. Anyhow, I'm going to break it off here, take that down, and put it back together. We'll be right back.